to bring this, and I have to ask the right questions to the right people. But first of all, a very warm welcome to you all, and thank you for joining me on this panel. As I said, I very slyly kept the title very, very general because there's been a theme throughout the day and we've built up. We started off about identity. So mobile identity, identity management and trust, what that actually means in the real world here in India today. So we've talked about that. We've talked about rich messaging with Indipal. Thanks to Indipal for his presentation. It was a very quick, short, sharp look at rich messaging, but was very, very good, and I enjoyed being part of that. We've had Chris's session, obviously looking at the whole mobile network operator angle. And of course, we also had Pallavi's session looking at the whole area of security and anti-fraud. And then, of course, we had the specific issue regarding the consultation paper here in India. So all of those roll together, create the world of business messaging. Now, it's just been talked about very, very, very quickly a couple of times, but the Internet of Things, and there was a comment made on a panel talking about actually one of the key drivers for increasing massively business messaging, in particular A2P SMS, is actually going to be IoT. And that is something that is not talked about a lot at all, but I think it's an absolutely great, great topic. So I'd like to just get Bhushan, you're Mr. IoT, and get you on the case here. And could you just explain why you think IoT is really going to be the growth engine, the next growth engine for A2P SMS?
So thank you very much for calling me in this session. I was part of the messaging industry for long, and then I moved to IoT in the last 5 years. So I am trying to learn both the industries. So I would say that at one point of time, P2P messaging was there, and then, A2P messages came up. And now A2P messaging is almost, as somebody was mentioning, about 45 billion messages per month. Where is P2P messaging? P2P messaging is just 3 billion messages per month. So it's hardly anywhere. And I think A2P, started from 2007, and it has really grown up like anything, and I'm sure it will continue to grow. But I'm very happy to tell you that there is a huge opportunity for all of you, all of us out here, because I am very sure that even this A2P messaging will be surpassed by IoT messaging. The M2M messaging will surpass A2P messaging in the next 3 to 4 years. How? I'm sure we all are reading, and we, in the last few years, there are about 5 billion devices are going to come. And how are these devices going to communicate? They are going to use SMS as one of the mediums. I used to think that, if 5 billion, how will this number come up? Samajh mein nahi aa raha, I'm using some part of Hindi also. You may not understand, but now I'm clearly able to see the type of initiatives which are going on. We have almost 25 crores smart meters coming up in the next 3 years. All will be smart meters where you can communicate two-way. We have almost 20 crores, water meters, 30 crores more water meters. We have 10 crores gas meters. We have 20 crores DTH connection, 20 crores set-top connections, including DTH and cable TV. So I clearly see all of them starting doing communicating. So I'm reasonably sure even if these devices communicate one or two messages only in a day, the number will be 2 to 3 billion messages will be coming up from these devices per day. So I'm reasonably sure that IoT messaging is going to come up. It is really, it's hotting up. And I'm reasonably sure in the next 3 years, you will see a huge marketing developing for IoT. And I would invite all of you, and I being from an operator community, and I must acknowledge one thing to you, that you guys, you aggregators, be it Infobip, Tanla, Carix, SMS Gupshup, ACL, and if I'm forgetting any name, please, sorry for that. but you are the people who made this industry of A2P. And I'm inviting all of you to please join again to create this M2M industry. I'm sure operators have gained out of A2P messaging. I'm sure operator will gain out of M2M messaging also in the coming times. I want all of you to play a very, very active role into this. Thank you.
Bhushan, thank you. There's very, very clearly an opportunity, but is there also, I'm going to ask Shankar this, is there also a threat related to IoT and messaging and potential grey routes and things like that in terms of IoT SIM cards which are meant to be for IoT being actually used against us, the industry, for grey route trafficking and everything like that? What I'm getting at is I've seen so many, particularly mobile operators, get so excited about IoT that the IoT division is more or less treated totally separately from everything else, and there's no visibility on the amount of SIM cards being given away, no control, unlimited volumes. Is that something you've seen at Infobip, or what do you see coming from the IoT side of things and the controls needed?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So I think, James, you asked some 4 or 5 questions in one question, So let's take one by one. I see if MNO is issuing a SIM, how different is it issuing it for devices? Because I think while you're issuing SIMs for retail customers, where you have more threats of fraudulent activities, whereas IoT, you're going to have a registered enterprise, in Indian terms, a GST registered enterprise coming to you with all sort of documentations, legal backup, asking you for SIMs to be deployed in devices. I believe it's more safer space for an MNO to work in M2M with an enterprise. So I think that answers the question of misuse. And coming to I think if I remember, the other question is how much of priority MNOs are putting in M2M. I think Industry 4.0 is already matured in some of the countries, and it's quite visible. So, and it's gaining traction. I think Bhushan called out some numbers. I think the numbers which he called out, and if you compare it with the Indian consumption and population, it's hardly anything. So if the scale comes up, obviously there's a lot of revenue. And for M2M, it's not only about SIM, as if the MNOs come in early and understand the entire ecosystem, which is building the M2M. It's not only about the SIM, but it's also about devices, it's also about the sensors, it's also about the, what do you call that, edge technologies and so on and so forth. Pardon me for my technology jargons, but then I'm trying to build the entire ecosystem here where the MNOs can bring in, and that brings a lot of revenue. It's not only about a SIM connection at a 49 rupees per month kind of a ARPU, right? So it brings the entire ecosystem, it brings system integration, it brings security. So it's a big play, it's not a small play. And I was just joking around with some of my colleagues, well, we saw A2P was a pure large enterprise business game till some years. Now, you also have a small educational institution buying A2P messaging for his business communication. Why can't we think of M2M in that fashion today? Because we made that mistake on A2P some years back, thinking that somebody who has an API and a CRM can only use A2P. That's why I think WhatsApp also gained mileage. But coming back to the point of M2M, I was just joking with my friends, the guy who was clicking pictures, no, he's not clicking pictures with a phone. If he would have just WhatsApped me immediately those pictures. I would say he has a device, he doesn't have a smartphone, and that device needs an M2M connection. That's it. So, I think there's a huge scope in the retail activity of M2M. And I think that's going to be the great place to explore for MNOs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to flick to a totally different topic, which is namely one of the words in...
Should you be doing it? Enterprises are slowly asking these questions. More and more, because data is they are sharing their data with a third party, with an aggregator, or a CPAAS company. So that's a very big challenge. On top of it, now most of the CPAAS companies are on cloud. Now, cloud literally has no boundaries. It's cloud. It's hovering all over the world. Again, there are some regulators who are saying that you have to keep your data local. So that's a big conundrum. How are you going to address these with GDPR? It's already there in Europe. Some form of GDPR is going to come to India as well. With CPAAS, how are you going to address these questions? So these are the slightly darker sides of CPAAS.
It's a very good point, because some rather large entities based in the US who offer 2 billion, I think we know who we're talking about here, services were actually saying, okay, well, we'll pull out. We won't be offering these services to the EU. I'm talking about GDPR regulations, everything. Yeah. Let's literally threatening to switch things off.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there are.
So the entire valuation, we all know that most CPAAS companies have gone through the roof as far as their market valuations are concerned. But then we also have seen a dip to the tune of almost 30 to 40% recently in the last 3 to 6 months. So it would be very interesting to ask those CPAAS companies, what is it that triggered your upswing, and what is it that has...
We have some here.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me ask. There we go.
No, but then, to be fair, the Indian companies have buckled that trend. They have not followed it. If you look at the global meltdown of the global CPAAS companies versus I'm not naming it, but then the two most well-known CPAAS companies in India, they haven't seen that meltdown. So what is it that they're doing right?
So keeping it real, this is the thing.
Probably.
That's the thing, keeping it real terms. Okay, thank you. Anurag, because he's smiling, you think you're absolutely desperate to get in on this. So yes, it's working. So CPAAS, how much room is there to grow? Because we've talked about the fact that in terms of India, with the huge population, there's huge headroom for growth. There's so many untouched business areas from even just SMS, never mind what we talked about with rich messaging. So from your perspective, how much room is there for growth? Talk India, and also with your previous experience as well, you had an international role. Just talk a little bit internationally as well, please.
Sure. Thank you, James, and thank you to the audience who's still surviving out there. Many of my friends who promised to act as cheerleaders have all left the room, so kudos to all of you to manage 5 sessions. Yeah, I can see just 2 now.
No, there we go.
No, I mean, seriously, you talk about 6 sessions, they are all overlapping so much, eventually it's like one constant buzz just doing the rounds and culminating into this final one. But thank you for being there and being so patient. I want to continue first with what Sumadri said, because he made some very valuable points, and I think that's what is going to come into the industry very soon. It's a very important point today. Literally, there are people out there who have an online persona of each and every one of us. Give a mobile number, we can, as in by we, I mean the industry overall, can find out what your salary is, can find out when's the last time you've had Chinese, can find out what sort of a service you like, what sort of clothes you like to buy, what are your holiday destinations, okay? What was James doing last night? So there's just so much that is available out there, and that's a major threat. So you have Europe, for example, bringing in GDPR, which has now helped awaken the world about the importance of data privacy. So what's happening next, if you look at in the frontiers of trying to make this secure, there are new activities, there are new platforms which are coming in, which focus on trying to make the entire experience secure. There has been a big rat race in the last couple of years to provide an omni-channel experience, which means an enterprise can today reach out to their end consumers in 10 different manners, right? And that's what's been the mainstay of most of the large CPAAS companies, including the $50 billion ones that you're talking about, right? But now, what's important is that now that we've reached that stage, how can we make that communication secure? How can we make sure that that communication is limited only to the intended recipient or the originator and nobody else? That's wherein there are new platforms which are coming about, which are focusing on end-to-end encryption. You know, like for example, in Tanla, we're talking a lot about encryption. That's something which has not really been spoken about. Who talks about encryption today? WhatsApp. Nobody else talks about it. WhatsApp realizes the importance of providing an encrypted environment for all your communication. The same needs to now come in the likes of SMS. The challenge with SMS is that it exchanges so many hands, goes all over the globe, that eventually that information is bound to be breached. We have the Ministry of Home Affairs nowadays looking into this matter very seriously. So to answer your question, sir, I mean, or rather to extend your viewpoint, it's a very valid point. If you're not able to make this ubiquitous channel secure, then eventually we'll reach a point that enterprises will lose trust in this channel. And that's something which one needs to be very careful about. Coming about what's expected in the future, I was mentioning in the afternoon, you know, there are many a fish in the sea. We should not consider these OTT channels as cannibalizing your existing SMS channel. SMS comes with its own strength. It comes with its strength of ubiquity. It comes with its strength of extremely deep penetrative reach. That's something today the best of OTT players cannot promise. So I think that will continue, at least for the next decade or so. I don't see, of course, nowadays you've got frictionless formats of identity verification which are starting to overtake OTP, but again, they will take a couple of years. But I feel that rich media is really going to be the next frontier of communicating between enterprises and end consumers. If you look at the new generation, they do not want to engage in actual verbal conversations. So I think the likes of conversational AI, which is slowly and sadly replacing the manual call centers that we've had. I think these frontiers will now open a whole generation of new products which will support new use cases of CPAAS. And I think that will make this industry grow in leaps and bounds. I mean, in MWC, there was a session around, can we make CPAAS into $1 trillion industry? You know, there was a session by MEF and Nick Lane, who presented in the morning. He conducted that session. I think eventually we realized, okay, it can't be maybe $1 trillion industry, but it can easily go up to becoming about 300, 400, maybe a $500 billion industry, if, you know, we are able to find the right use cases. So, I mean, there is abundance opportunities available out there.
Thank you. Ankit, over to you, coming from Kalera. We're rationing the microphones, I don't know why, but there we go. So from the Kalera side of things, there's so much talk. We've talked about so many channels, and we actually haven't mentioned so many channels there are out there for enterprise and business messaging. Do you hear this, again, I don't know, but in India, do you hear of discussions saying, oh, this channel is going to replace that channel? Or is there a general understanding, actually, no, leading on from what Anurag was saying, that no, the whole market can grow, so every channel has its place? Or is there still very much this aggressive, no, RCS is going to replace SMS or whatever? What are you seeing in Kalera here and generally?
Thanks. Thanks for having me here. So what we see as the trend in Kalera is obviously, Anurag mentioned omni-channel, right? Now, what is omni-channel? We as CPAAS players are providing these channels, but if you look at the enterprise perspective, in my opinion, they are still multi-channel. They've not moved to omni-channel, right? And there's a lot of research out there that the end consumers, the end receivers of these messages on whichever channel you're sending out, want to stay within the app or within the enterprise's digital journey and not move out of it, right? Having understood that there are various channels, for example, one is video, or the WebRTC channel, as I call it.
Well, that's the oldest rich messaging channel, is video. And
absolutely.
so few people talk about it. You just look at Netflix and what a domination they have.
So WebRTC has a lot of strength and power to replace, or, you know, to take this digital touch points within the app. Today, with the internet boom and the .com boom here, at least in Asia and India, we see so many mobility companies, right? So mobility as a service, the mass segment. We are still doing voice calls. We are dependent on a lot of network and things like that. But eventually we feel, or I personally also feel, that if I'm getting an in-app call, if I'm on the app chatting to an agent, and it just replaces to a voice call on the app and then also switches to video. So that's an excellent customer experience which I give to the end customer as an enterprise. So obviously there are such channels like WebRTC, and we've spoken a lot about RCS. RBM, you know, what you can do with that ecosystem is immense. You know, that's just a channel, so I call it multi-channel. But when you get to omni-channel within this ecosystem, how can you leverage payments? How can you leverage the entire transaction within one channel? So that's something to look out for in the future, and that's the way I think the CPAAS industry will evolve and move to like a CPAAS plus a CCAS kind of a journey, which gives you that whole omni-channel kind of experience, and that would be the game changer.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a really, really good point and a nice explanation of what omni-channel really is. So in the same session with the client, to be able to seamlessly switch between channels. Anything other than that is multi-channel. And actually, there are very, very, very few truly omni-channel messaging players in the world. And I'm pleased to say we have most of them sitting in this room at scale. And one of those is sitting right next to you. Well, you're not the company. I wish you were Cisco. There we go. But owned by Cisco, I am iMobile. And Avadesh, you're talking about the customer experience. You talked about customer experience there. What expectations do customers have today from literally messaging and how they receive the content? What are the expectations today here in India?
Thank
it's
you,
a very
James.
general question, I know, but it leads into many other things.
I'll try to set the context for this. And thank you, James, and thank you, audience, for being here all through the day. So customer behavior and expectations are changing. I think in the previous sessions, we discussed a lot about that. And currently, we are seeing a clear shift, a paradigm shift towards digital interactions, right? And it becomes increasingly important for customer experience or CS experts to deliver a connected experience all through the course of customer engagement. So I was discussing with one of my colleagues the other day how to, what is customer experience, right? We keep discussing that in various forums. So customer experience is actually product experience plus transaction experience plus the interaction experience. So all of that put together defines customer experience. Now currently, what customers expect. So we have discussed about the increased preference for chat-based channels, right? So there was a research conducted by TalkDesk, which said that 87% of the customers now, they prefer conversations to happen with great speed, right? 78% prefer that there should be the flexibility to switch from one channel to the other channel, right? At any point of time. So today, an enterprise has to engage with the customers the way, today you and me interact, right? Over conversation channels. It has to be as simple as that. And the role of CX experts is to reduce the process complexities. So customer is interested more on the solutions and not on the processes. So we have to reduce the process complexities, reduce the effort for the customer, and create an agile ecosystem so that it's very easy for the customer to reach out to the enterprise or vice versa, enterprise to reach out to the customer. So that's, will continue and will continue to be the focus for all CPAAS players in the next, 10 to 15 years. The other question I wanted to just chip in, which was about which channel would replace which channel, right? So I think there is enough and more for every channel, and the market is just growing. Bhushan just spoke about IoT and the kind of opportunities which IoT would bring in. So I don't see that, so SMS is not going anywhere, at least for the next 10 years, considering the way it is ingrained in the transactional ecosystem everywhere across the world. However, the other channels, the OTT channels like WhatsApp and WeChat and Facebook Messenger and Twitter DM, they're going to gradually pick up. RCS is also going to pick up in the next couple of years, but I don't see any cannibalization happening here.
Perfect. Now, Bhushan, over to you. Coming from mobile operator, I talked about the importance of brand recognition, the fact that I think more or less of any industry generally globally, you have the strongest brand recognition globally, mobile operators. There are literally millions of businesses out there. So we talked about Nick Lane from Mobile Squared, and Anurag mentioned him as well. And one of the other stats that comes up regularly from Mobile Squared and other analyst houses, Juniper Research as well, and many others, is the fact that the majority of listed businesses globally, so those are by listed businesses, those are typically the larger ones, do not use even SMS today in their customer interactions. That's 95% of those, never mind anything else. And a question I got asked, I have really open conversations with my other half, Nicola, because she doesn't really understand the industry that we work in and the importance, and she really doesn't. And she asked me a very valid question. I'm going to ask this to you, actually. And how would you answer my other half, Nicola, if we got her on the phone now? So she's setting up a little online women's clothing business. And she said, how do I find out, okay, this is in the UK, but I'm talking here now in India, how do I find a company, a good company, and what defines a good company, that's coming up next, to actually send out some content to my customers? How do people actually go about doing that here in India? And are you guys here in India doing enough to make that easy? Tough one, I know.
Yeah, it is a tough one, and I'm trying to understand the question even in my mind. No. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say in plain language, most of the businesses out there are not using even SMS. They don't know about our industry. They don't know who you guys are. They don't know about any of the channels we've talked about. If they hear about it and they actually say, okay, I want to start sending SMS in my business, which company will they choose? How do they do it? And are you all doing enough to make that process easy for them? So connecting the unconnected to A to P messaging.
Would you want to take this question?
So, interesting question, I must say. So let's say you set up a business, okay? Now, you will need some sort of CRM, okay? Or no, I'm finishing. So how do you, or a website, you'll have a website, okay? Some sort of platform so that you can communicate with your clients. Now, when that person comes in, you actually, even website developers in India are connected to SMS providers. So when they give that package, they say that, okay, fine, I will charge you this much, and it'll include 10,000 messages per month for you to communicate with your customers. So that's
perfect. So that's happening right now.
Absolutely, it's happening.
Yeah.
It's absolutely happening.
So I think if you remember, I mentioned that the A2P was focusing on large enterprises, and that's what is connecting back to your point. Because there's a huge market. We have about 63 million MSME registered with Government of India. That's a true number. Now, MSME means, and I'm sure not everyone requires A2P because there'll be a lot of B2B businesses and all that stuff. But then there's a lot of, and 63% of our GDP comes from IT sector or service sector, which means there's a lot of MSME business in that sector. Now, what you're asking for is, can an MSME, like you mentioned about your better half who wants to start a business, can just Google up and say, I need to send 20,000 SMSs looking for a genuine partner who can take care of, understand my business really well, partner me in technology, what I think Sumati was mentioning about platform and CRMs. Yes, that's what is missing. I mean, we don't have that scale, we don't have that kind of level of education in that space. The reason being, we've been always focusing A2P on volumes. It's not a volume business there, it's a scale business. You need to scale up, and you need to really be digitally smart enough to cater to that customer. I can tell you some of the e-commerce companies who've come here and have started B2B businesses have got that platform today, and they're able to reach out to more than 500,000 retailers who provide groceries with technologies to sell on platforms, right? The same people would need another platform to communicate. But these guys have reached there, probably we've not yet reached that place.
Okay, thank you for acknowledging. But by the way, James, I think the challenge is not in your question. You know, our moderator keeps forgetting he's not the MC. So the prologue to the question is so long, you lose track of what the actual question is. Jokes apart, I actually don't agree with what you had said. I think today, mostly anybody who's getting into a small time or a medium entrepreneur who's setting up shop, I think today everybody is a lot more savvy about available technology. Okay, maybe not knowing the entire breadth of technology, but today as a consumer, I am being I'm being hit by so many brands that I know that that's how an enterprise is actually reaching to an end consumer. So I won't say that an end consumer and an individual who actually starts getting into a business is actually totally unaware and clueless of what's available in the market. I agree with what Shankar said, that I think, yes, that sort of a middleware is not really that prominent. But let's take, for example, somebody like Shopify. You know, what is Shopify doing? They are enabling a lot of SMEs to actually go out there and be able to set shop, right? They're able to Shopify them, right? Now, those channels, those businesses, business models are becoming big, right? And then what Sumadri said is very right. We are the enablers behind them. So, you know, it's not necessary that we have to be out there in the front. We are supporting that initiative in our own way. We are the backbone in a way. And of course, the largest backbone at the back end are the operators which are there. So I think that infra is there, that understanding is there, and it's growing day by day. So I think it will continue, and I'm sure she will find options to reach out to her end consumers.
Well, you must have been talking to her, because she's just starting to set up with Shopify.
Yeah,
so there we go.
I follow you on Facebook.
No, just to add to these thoughts, right? Shankar and obviously Anurag said it very right. Now, just answering to your question a little more directly, are we doing enough for people to know that, you know, A, B, C, D, CPAAS providers are out there in the market to provide you these services? I think, yes, we are doing enough in the partner ecosystem to, you know, complement Anurag's answer about a Shopify finally works with one of the CPAAS providers, right? And with all the new age internet companies and the enabling companies in India are actually connected with CPAAS providers like us from a very early stage in their growth journey. So what this does is the end consumer or a person who's starting a business, a small business, gets this as a packaged solution from either a CRM provider or a marketing platform or a digital agency in itself. So that's what the ecosystem is doing, and I think that's when we focus as an industry a lot in building these plugins and being there on the partner ecosystem. And yeah, that should answer the question.
It does. Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. So another area, we've mentioned the word aggregators, and then we've mentioned CPAAS providers, and that the two are different, although of course we have examples on this stage and in the audience where CPAAS providers are aggregators plus, so doing everything. How important, Avadesh, is it today, do you think, because wholesale is still there, it's still important, so that's the traditional, I suppose, word for wholesalers, aggregators. How important is it today that aggregators, they all make that move to CPAAS? And do you think that if they don't make that move, that ultimately their business just playing in that wholesale domain will totally evaporate, the profit margins will evaporate, and there's no point being in business?
Yeah, James, I completely agree with you. Gradually, we are seeing over the past couple of years that there has been a shift towards CPAAS. And traditionally, like I can give example of my own organization. IMI Mobile started 20 years back, and we were also focusing on the SMS part of it. And gradually we moved and evolved into a CPAAS player, and now currently we support a bunch of channels and we are adding a few more. So this space, I think we need to constantly innovate, live with the complexities of the ecosystem, keep on adding new channels. And I think this is not only important for growth, I think it's important for survival. That's what I strongly feel about it.
Fantastic, thank you. Now, Bushan, you sidestepped the previous one, but there's no... Yeah. Smaller question, I know. But there's definitely no escaping this one. How important is it for you, your company, with partnering with the members of the A to P CPAAS community? How important are those partnerships? And do you agree, because it's been said several times that perhaps mobile operators, they may not have the knowledge, they may not have the expertise, rely totally on the partners, or do you think, I don't know, it depends on the mobile operators here in India, are you looking yourselves to take a bigger part of this A to P pie?
As I mentioned earlier also, I think the A2P business is today there, and thanks to the aggregators. I think they brought this business to existence. They went to the operators in 2005, 2006, 2007, explained them that you guys need to do this business and this is how you will make money. And that is why I took some names, of the aggregators, who were really forthcoming, and, they brought that business. I think even for IoT, and let me just go back, not only for IoT, but for other businesses also, I think we are looking at partners and trying to partner with them for a long term, because we know that the value which these aggregators and partners can bring in is very difficult for an operator. For IoT specifically, we are again doing partnering because we know IoT is an ecosystem play. It cannot be done by one party. It has to be done by multiple people. Somebody may be expert in location services, somebody may be expert in the smart metering domain, somebody may be expert in maybe retail space. So I think we need to, do partnerships. This is exactly what we are doing in the IoT space. And I think, as I mentioned about M2M messaging also, I'm urging everybody that let's come together again as all the partners, and I would want each one of you to play that role. And let's see how we can create M2M IoT messaging out of nowhere. Currently, it is not there at all. But let's together come around and create an IoT messaging as a new business domain. I think all the operators are open. We are open to work with all of you. Thank you very much.
James, it's very important to understand our individual roles. Now, I do wear two hats. We are an access provider and an enterprise communication player as well. Now, for the longest period of time, operators have been accused that you all are just dumb pipes. Okay? They haven't liked it, obviously. They said that no, we add a lot of value. Now, when they have embarked upon adding value, and when they go to the enterprises, then the same aggregators would come back and say, oh, you are entering into my space. It's better that you remain a dumb pipe. But for an operator also, we have to realize that we are good at making and maintaining platforms. Now, say for example, the A2P space. An operator would have probably, the largest operator in India would probably have max 5 to 10 dedicated people working for the A2P space. Now, the largest A2P or the CPAAS player has 700 plus, 500 plus. I think the top 10 A2P and CPAAS players all of them have more than 500 people working in that space. Now, can an operator afford that kind of bandwidth for 1.7% of their top line? So it's very important to be realistic, and some of our previous panelists have said that collaboration is the way forward, and I truly believe that there is enough for everybody in terms of making money in this particular space. It's just that we cannot be greedy. I mean, that's my my thought.
But Anurag, wouldn't it be better? So I understand operators saying we do P2P very well, aggregator CPAAS providers saying we do A to P very well, let's work together. But what about having more really, really tight partnerships between the CPAAS providers and the operators? So in my previous life before MEF, because yes, there was life before MEF, I actually helped do this with 2 mobile operator groups who went out to the market basically. They reviewed some of you guys and they made a choice. Okay, we're going to be rolling forward with this one. We're going to white label this now CPAAS provider's solution, and actually went further. They actually provided salespeople, sales assistants to complete RFPs, people to help support the whole shebang. It's just that brand was so powerful, you can do so much so combined. So here in India, is there scope for even closer cooperation? Or generally, Anurag, I don't know what the situation is here in India, to accelerate it even further, to get to all those, this is what I'm getting at, who aren't using messaging today, using the power of the brand.
So the question is, just to be sure.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm bad.
That whether CPAAS providers and operators can work in a collaborative manner and grow together.
Totally. So not just I'm good at this, you're good at that, let's talk, let's do something really like that to really accelerate it on the back of the brand.
If you ask me a little extension of what Somadri was saying again, I think firstly, operators play a very critical role, and that's having carrier-grade infrastructure, you know, and that's something which, while of course CPAAS players also invest into, but I think the amount of regulated nature in which an operator needs to work, there is so much more strength which an operator brings and reliability which an operator brings onto the table. Why do you call an SMS as the most ubiquitous form of messaging? You hear of WhatsApp going down, you hear of Instagram going down, you never hear of an A2P SMS going down. Okay, it might not reach you. There are other reasons which we all know why they don't reach you. But firstly, I think operators play that role which cannot be replaced by a CPAAS provider, right? So to that extent, that strength or that contribution in that partnership is already very evident, you know, and you cannot deny that. Operators are the mainstay of CPAAS communication. If they are not there, then the CPAAS providers are left hanging, right? So to that extent, that collaboration is already happening today. It's been happening for 20 years now. And I see that happening for the next 10 years until OTTs become more and more prevalent. But again, given the lesser regulations which appear in the OTT channels, I think the operator contribution will continue to remain. Coming back to what you were originally asking, are there more partnership opportunities available? Yes, M2M. Okay, that's a humongous opportunity which is coming up in the days to come. I remember earlier I was in Tata Communications and some opportunities came up related to M2M, and I couldn't understand what's this. So the message has to go to another SIM which is not a human being, and then like, yeah, and that's becoming a big thing, and we started getting into that. So that space is huge. So I think that's where, again, I think CPAAS providers see this as an allied use case which is useful, and that's where partnerships with operators will come in. I think the platform plays is becoming again quite big. I think today operators are non-dumbifying themselves to go out there. You know, let's take for example Airtel. Airtel has a platform called Airtel IQ, which they are now going all out there and going up to enterprises. And yes, I think somewhere the aggregators are not happy as well sometimes that, you know, that's coming up. The operator is sadly no more dumb, right? So I think in such cases, what is definitely helpful is to go the platform play way of things as well. I come from a company which has platforms literally within the name, and I feel that in the days to come, platforms will play a much bigger role. You look at Amazon today. Amazon doesn't sell anything. Amazon brings people together. And that is what is going to be the next frontier of any industry, to just have partnerships. There is no buyer-seller relationship. There is a partner relationship. There is an ecosystem provider relationship. So we give ecosystems. Let people come themselves. Let people have their own mechanism of deriving the right price. You know, the price, I forget the word, but the price identification mechanism of arriving at the right price discovery, thank you. So the price discovery mechanism, let the buyers and sellers, which is typically, especially the enterprise and the operators, that can be fixed between them. But I think platform will become the next big collaborative measure between operators and CPAAS players, wherein CPAAS players will provide platforms, operators will benefit from those platforms, and enterprises will see benefit of coming onto the ecosystem and often directly talking to the operators as well. So I feel that's the next level platform play as the next level of partnership and collaboration between operators and CPAAS players.
Fantastic, thank you, Anurag. Now, believe it or not, we're coming up to the close of the whole event. So Avadesh, we'll start from this side, work along. Final remarks about anything that's gone on today, CPAAS, business messaging, anything you've heard, anything extra to add, please go for it.
I attended the entire session today and I think it was really wonderful. The key takeaway for me is, I think there's enough and more for everyone. It's all about collaboration and peaceful coexistence.
Wow, it's a double. No, that's fine. No, that was the warning. We've got 5 minutes left, but carry on.
Yeah, so that's a key takeaway for me. And just to add to what Anurag just mentioned, I think there's a lot of exciting stuff coming up, especially on the collaboration front with telecom operators. And there's a lot of focus which Cisco and IMI has in this space. We have a dedicated team that is working towards collaboration with large telecom players, not only in India, but even outside India. We're getting a lot of positive developments in ASEAN market and even in European market for that matter. So, and I think MEF is going to increasingly play an important role in terms of bringing these stakeholders together so that it's a win-win situation for everyone.
Thank you. Please go ahead. Same, closing thing, go for it.
Right. So obviously we've spoken a lot about how we are evolving as CPAAS companies, right? And I heard one statement about we call operators as dumb pipes, or even CPAAS players were just serving dumb pipes, right? Obviously we agree to that. But where I think we will reach, or what the end game is, and I think it's out there in a lot of research again as well, is how we can make our service offerings or this ecosystem more intelligent, and what's the value add for the end consumer or the enterprise, right? Can I send a message on my most preferred channel I'm on at the best preferred time? You know, I love reading marketing messages at 5 in the evening maybe, so should I get it then? But why am I getting it at 12 in the morning, right? So it's evolving into an intelligent CPAAS, and that's where the platform play, the telecom play, the ecosystem, the partnerships, your AIs, MLs of the world, everything comes into the picture, and how soon and who can create that intelligent platform and then take it out to the market would be a game changer. And it syncs with the evolution of CPAAS and the future of business messaging.
Thank you.
Yeah. So actually, I take care of customer success and I spend a lot of time with customers. And I think in today's session, the third beneficiary, which is the brand, I thought we'll just spend a minute on that before I close. I think the brands need both the MNOs and as well as the CPAAS players. And from the brand's perspective, I would like to connect back to the discussion where Milind and I think, forgot the other gentleman's name who presented .go, sorry. Inder, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Inder and Milind had this conversation around RCS, and there is a point which came about simplicity. One of the customers just mentioned to me that, the simplicity for SMS and WhatsApp is because it's retail first and then it is, A2P. So anything which comes retail first and then becomes A2P, the simplicity automatically exists because the ecosystem is matured enough to accept that in any form. RCS probably is, lacking that space except for WhatsApp. The RCS piece, which is in collaboration with MNO, is lacking the simplicity because the ecosystem doesn't exist. So that was one interesting point. The other interesting point on RCS commercials, which was a very hot topic. we heard that there could be 3 types of model pricing, which is existing, pay-per go, or something around the conversation. But then why can't we have a hybrid? That's where the customers are looking at, because the use cases are different, right? If you look at the flywheel, there are customers using RCS for engaging, there are customers using for attraction, there are customers using for delight. But every use case has a different commercial requirement, and a hybrid is what will make it better. But in A2P today, we don't have that kind of a model. So again, we are not commercializing it from an ROI perspective, we are commercializing it from a probably more restrictions on our own systems and technology, and from a billing point of view. And billing has always been a big topic in MNOs as far as that engine is going, right? And my final point is, CPAAS is here to stay, but my personal thought is that the backward integration with MNO is very tight. I think the forward integration is very critical. I think just giving a communication channel is not going to take us far ahead. The forward integration in growing into CRM and panels and platforms, as mentioned, is very, very critical. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I love that comment about the commercial model, because there's so many more commercial models you can think of. A success-based one. So for example, you may have an enterprise client which pays you a percentage, 10% of, I don't know, 10% of the revenues from a sale to someone who has not bought with you for 6 months, or something success-based. That's another one. But again, the billing side of things is important, and this is where the aggregator comes in with more flexibility. So Bhushan, your closing remarks about this whole topic and the day. Please go for it.
So I think the same point I would want to reiterate, that collaboration is very, very important. Telcos alone cannot do that, be it messaging, M2M messaging, or even CPAAS. I see a huge role of partnerships between the aggregators and the telcos. That would be my point.
James, I'll take the liberty of breaking the chain. I have a question for you.
Okay.
So we do hear a lot about 5G and 6G and Open RAN. What do you think that's going to, and how it will impact the CPaaS industry? Because with Open RAN, the enterprise, the large enterprise has the ability to directly connect without any intervention to the telco's tower, or so-called tower, So do you,
But
what do you?
So it goes back to this. Are the enterprises experts at communication and connectivity? No. So they would need a partner to do this. And what's the motivation for them to actually do it? If I'm Pizza Hut and I'm all about pizzas, or Haagen-Dazs all about ice cream, what's the motivation for me to do that when I can just send all my content via one of you guys? Why would I? Unless there's a compelling reason that I can do something with that I can't do.
The reason I say this is because, and you're almost an expert on South Africa, and a long time back, 10 years back, we saw an exodus of talent from mobile industry to South African banks, because they realized that there will be a lot of telco-related requirement in banks. So, it's all going to be about applications. The kind of applications that you'll be able to run on 5G is humongous.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I had that question for you.
A very good question, but from that point, again, what would the motivation be? And I think the only ones to do it would be a very, very small subset. I know that's the end. I know. I'm the MC. I choose when the end is. Stop this. We haven't got, it's like Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind, not even the third kind. Yeah. Fourth kind. So that's the first one. But then going back to 5G, for me, 5G is real and massive for IoT. It will make IoT real, because we've talked about RCS for so many years. People fail to realize RCS has been around for a decade. The first mobile operator to get a full deployment was Vodafone in the UK in 2013. Did anyone hear about it in the UK? Anyone know about it? No, no one. And it's the same with IoT. This year's going to be the year of IoT. And then the pandemic put everything back. It's basically froze the world of IoT. It's unfrozen. And with 5G and eSIM coming now, I think IoT is real. And I didn't even let Anurag talk about his new favorite topic, which is blockchain, and bringing blockchain into CPAAS as well. So I think here, what I've learned today and what I've seen for real is that blockchain is being used very, very successfully. It is the largest real-life deployment. It's not just some blah, blah at a conference. It's real, and that can be used very, very powerfully. And the outside world needs to use it as well. But for me, I'm just bringing some things together, what we talked about. The regulator aspect is super important. And I think, Chris, what you were saying, that the light touch, that was the phrase you used. Oh, sorry, that wasn't. Sorry, that was the, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Light touch. You mentioned the light touch. Sorry, so yourself, yeah. It was the light touch of the regulation is 100% correct from what I've seen, because I've been that close to situations with the regulator in Singapore, the regulator in Croatia, and other countries. They did not understand what A2P is. They were being told by certain parties that P2P is the same as A2P from a commercial model perspective. They were even being told, I've been in a conversation, that SIM farms are absolutely fine, and no joke, and it comes down to education. But then, what we say in British English, the penny drops, the light bulb goes on, and they realize, and there's the danger of a knee-jerk reaction to go so super secure, so quick, that it chokes the business, and it doesn't allow everyone here to get on with such a great job of connecting up the unconnected to business messaging. So the regulators, what, for example, GTS have done in Africa, and got very, very close to the regulators, and I personally, from what I've seen, I don't understand why more regulators don't come in and say, hey, we're going to be the gatekeeper for all the messaging, whether it be domestically or inbound, and off you go. And talking about South Africa, what happened in South Africa when it came to direct carrier billing, being able to pay for things using your mobile phone, is the regulation came in that within 6 months you've got to implement a security solution from one of these providers. And there was a list of fine providers of that solution. You've got to do it. That's good regulation. That's healthy. That's protecting the consumer and helping to grow the business. But it's that lack of education. And then suddenly, that even more dangerous, as you all know, in the world of business messaging and A2P SMS and firewalls, rather than letting spam through potential threats is dangerous, more dangerous is blocking legitimate content which customers are expecting. Very few people talk about that. That is more dangerous. So when you're implementing firewalls and things like that, you can't just go like that. The gate comes down, block, block, block. Very dangerous. You've got to go slowly, 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 and apply the brakes in a gentle manner, because your subscribers are very, very unforgiving. And it goes back to a point I made earlier with that they can give their whole lives away. They've got a problem with a family member. They put it all on Facebook or whatever social media, well-known social media channel they might decide to use out there, yet, oh no, from their mobile operator or from a brand, they receive a spam message, and it's suddenly that Mr. or Mrs. angry, shouting down the phone. There's this inconsistency in human touch. And my final point, I promise, because I know the 5 minutes went probably 10 minutes ago, is the most valuable thing to consumers has been talked about so much today. It hasn't actually been mentioned. It's the T word, and it's time. It's not that they get great service, define great service, someone polite at the end of the phone. I would rather have someone who may be, okay, not wonderfully, let's say, soothing and caring, but actually I get done what I need to have done rapidly. So time is the most valuable thing for our consumers. And from what I'm seeing and what we're talking about here, we've got these solutions which, thanks to the platform and the technology being developed and rolled out by all of you in this room and beyond, it's allowing that time to be shortened. But my final remark is, there are so many channels out there, we have a risk. And that risk is, for example, you ask me, James, can you sell me a cigarette lighter? And I go, yes. James, can you sell me a bottle of water? I go, yes. An umbrella? I go, yes. I can sell you anything. But there's the risk of, you can have so many channels, we can offer so many solutions, when all people are looking for is simplicity. So from what I've seen over all the years and all the various events with MEF and beyond, we've got supremely amazing omni-channel solutions available in the market from the likes of IMI, from the likes of Kalera, from the likes of Tanla, from the likes of Infobip, Cinch, GTS. There's so many others, and apologies if I've forgotten names, others like that, majority in this room today, but it's simplicity at the end of the day, because some people go, this is getting so difficult, I'll just carry on using email. And that is a danger, a real danger. So let's keep things simple and let's get people connected.
James,
And,
I just want to take
go
1
ahead.
minute. Sorry, just taking 1 more minute before we wrap up. I know there's more unrest, so I'm just going to change and just wear my MEF hat for a second. We've had a wonderful day here today. I thank Ashutosh and the entire GTS team for organizing it in such a well-tailored manner that, it was seamless since yesterday right up till today. Many of us are out here are proud members of MEF and many of us aren't. So I'm going to request all the wonderful attendees out here today who are still not part of this forum. I believe the MEF is pretty much the only CPAAS industry forum available today globally, whether in India or internationally. Whoever was there in Barcelona, you should have seen the way MEF was present all throughout, and we had the likes of the largest OTT players, we had the CPAAS players, we had the operators. Everybody was part of the MEF fraternity out there. So it's a humble appeal. James wouldn't make it, but I'm making it on behalf of James. It's a humble appeal that the MEF is starting to gain center stage in CPAAS, and it's becoming the voice of our ecosystem. We are the ecosystem, they are our voice. So I would request everybody, whether it's companies like a Next Gen Solutions who's come about, or we have Videocon, or we have so many other people out here, wonderful people who are still not part of this wonderful fraternity. It's a humble appeal. They have very flexible commercial models as well, let me tell you. So,
I'm very flexible.
If you take this guy out for dinner, he can actually give you a year's subscription for free. So, it's that easy. But I would really request everybody out here, whoever is not part of the MEF, please do consider being a part of this forum. Please be an active member. This is one forum which is truly, truly democratic in nature and gives a chance to the entire ecosystem to voice their opinions, their caveats, and be able to table what they feel is the next thing that needs to be done in this industry. So we look forward to seeing this industry grow, and we look forward to India being a major anchor in the MEF. Thank you so much.
Anurag, thank you. So, and one final thing, a note, thank you very much. You do know me, but you clearly don't know me well enough. I would have, not given a shameless plug, but I would have said to all of you out there who've enjoyed this event, and many of you who have enjoyed many other MEF events, but actually haven't yet joined MEF, then please feel free to do so. Remember, we're a not-for-profit industry trade body. We're not here to make money. The only way we can do wonderful things like this today is thanks to the generosity of our members, and that's it. But the final thing, I would say actually that the most benefit I've personally seen from at MEF is for actually members who are small and medium sized, because it's so powerful getting your brand out there. And please don't think it's not for enterprises. We have some banks as members, but I want enterprises to come in as members, because you think of the anti-fraud angle, the mobile identity angle, content and advertising, all mobile payments, all of that is relevant to an airline, it's relevant to a bank, food retailer, whomever. So we welcome absolutely everyone. And for me, it's been a real pleasure being here in India for my first time. And personally, I'd like to thank everyone here today. And the GTS team have done such a great job. Thanks to Ashutosh Agarwal, Rajiv, and Sudeep, the three co-founders of GTS. And I keep saying Purnima, who's done such an awesome job putting it together. We've talked to each other so much, messaged each other furiously for the past weeks, getting things done. And everyone here to make this event what it is. We will be doing this again next year. That is a promise from MEF. And we are thinking about making it larger and even expanding it to possibly, in my head, beyond just messaging, because there's so much more. Mobile identity, content and advertising, mobile payments, all are linked. So that's for next year, but as of now, just thank you very much all for coming along. My name is James Williams, and this has been a MEF Meetup in India for business messaging. Thank you very much. But business for the panel actually is not ended, because we have a little token of appreciation for everyone on the panel. So, come on. Thank you very much. Anurag, you get one as well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Sorry about putting you on the spot.